I'm going to do a little intro. So, my name's Tom Dwan. I'm a poker player. And Mikey and I know each other a pretty long time. I don't know, 10 years or some shit, right? What do you think?
Longer than that, brother. I'll
Yeah.
probably double that.
Really?
Yeah.
So, there was a time I was probably one of the better people in the world at No Limit Hold'em before AI came and, made it difficult where you got to study all day, every day to try to keep up. Um, I would say that's probably also true for Pot Limit Omaha, which was one of the games that also had the most money in it. And I would also say that's probably true for Short Deck. And I think you'd agree with that, right, Mikey?
That's a good assessment.
Yeah, like I don't think that's too much my ego saying that, right? Like definitely my ego tagged me a few times. I played Isildur, he got me, Jungle got me, right? Like, but this current assessment I think is pretty accurate.
I like humble Tom.
So this is the most nervous I've ever been on camera. And to give people some backstory, I played high stakes poker and I played a lot of the more known pots on TV. A few years ago, I beat this guy Wesley in a pot that, at least at the time, was the biggest pot ever on TV. Probably still up there. Um, the fact that I'm nervous when talking to a goat farmer says a little something, right? And to give even a piece of something that wasn't just poker, the U.S. government shut down the online sites in, I think it was 2011, right around there.
Yep.
And 2 days later, maybe 3 days later, I did a thing on Fox Business with, I think it was Varney and Co. And I basically publicly motherfucked the DOJ and the Southern District of New York. Like, I'm way more nervous now talking to a goat farmer than that. So, on April 26, 2025, I think it was, give or take a day, but I'm pretty sure it was 26. I got on a flight from LA to London. When you start getting into percents, things get complicated. But if we try to use a standard of like reasonable doubt or beyond a reasonable doubt, that's like the standard the legal system uses.
Sure.
If you were a juror, maybe you'd define that as 90, maybe I'd define it as 99, whatever, right? It's at least in these kind of ballparks, my nervous system was hit with something. Now, exactly what, I'm not going to try to get into and speculate, at least on this specific thing. But there's a few things I will say. One is Mikey and I kind of penciled in. We're going to try for there's a few things I will say. Chat like this. Now, maybe around my birthday, so meaning by like early August, we'd stop. We'll probably put a pause, and we could always change that later. But part of my reasoning for that is, one, not bore people. I don't have that many interesting stories. Two, midterm elections are coming up. I try to not get involved in weird shit, right? One time whatever, I'll get back to that later. But, that would be a good timing to stop, right? DOJ has their own ways they normally do that. I think it's 90 days or whatever. I'm a fucking poker player. Mikey's a goat farmer. Like, I don't think we need to be perfect, but let's not pretend we know way better. That seems like a good, rough deadline. Now, if shit gets weird, maybe we'll change that. That's kind of for me and Mikey to decide. Anyway, Mikey and I had talked, and we got a kind of rough idea here, which is we're going to try to keep this, let's call it 20%, about any of that flight or London-y shit, and Mikey's going to try to hold me accountable, because while I feel mostly healed, there's a few, I am nervous right now talking, right? I'll tell you one odd thing I realized recently. It seems like when I'm fucking parking a car, I used to be able to park a car fine. I think I can drive fine. I focus a little extra ever since the London shit. Parking a car, like, my girlfriend makes fun of me. I take 3 times longer than normal, and I'm extra careful, so I wouldn't be surprised if Mikey's got to keep me in line a little and be like, hey, back to poker, or hey, whatever, and that's for a number of reasons. One of the big ones is trying to not bore people, right? A lot of the people watching, at least right now, are probably more interested in poker stuff or some old poker stories or whatever.
Well, yeah, I want to give you the opportunity to share your thoughts about
and one
anything.
other thing, I meant
Yeah.
to ask you before, but I'm assuming you won't be too grumpy. I want to ask you a yes or no, and
Okay.
then we can just get into poker, and I'll let you leave. But
Okay.
would you say it's fair that at least some of my concerns you've been presented with at least some evidence for?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you and I have talked offline.
Let's go back to that later.
Okay.
You met someone for me in person, right? There's a few things, whatever.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's circle back later. Hit me with a poker thing. Let's
Okay.
talk about this shit.
All right. So I was really happy to chat with you before. I felt like that conversation could have gone on like for 3 or 4 hours. And so, in hindsight, I wasn't quite able to get to a lot of the questions that were submitted by some of the people. So I still have those questions. So I want to kind of try to rip through as many as we can, make sure a lot of the people that joined us last time have their voices heard this time. And I also have a handful of things that I jotted down that I want to chat about.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I think I want to like circle back and forth. Like, there's some stories I want to tell that are basically all poker or mostly poker. There's a or two that touches on those. And I think let's, like we said before, let's try for half an hour. If it ends up an hour,
Sure.
fine. But like, let's kind of call it somewhere around an hour or slightly over if it goes there.
Okay, I mean, I wonder how good these algorithms are, because I've been getting fed a lot more epic Tom Dwan hands from the past in my feeds. So I don't know if they know that you and I are chatting, or maybe I just clicked on one and now a lot more are coming. But there's been a handful of hands that I've seen over the last since the last time we talked, and I jotted down a few of them. So I want to.
So I want to tell you a story.
Okay.
And it's about some AI shit, but it started at the poker table.
Okay.
And it's mostly a poker story. So, I know this guy, Scott Wu. He is from, I think they're from Louisiana, I don't know, some town in like middle America. And that town, I'm pretty sure I have this right, had more gold medals in the international math stuff than I think all of China or all of India. It might have been one, I think it was both. And that's because his brother was like one of the best ever until him, who was then the best ever. Now, he founded Cognition. And so they're a AI startup. I was able to invest a few pennies in. And, a few different times, I don't know if it was 7 or 3 or 5 or what, we played poker at the Cognition House. Probably something like 5, right? And I remember some of the details from those. And so, we're talking publicly, so I want to be pretty careful with framing. And so to jump out of this story for one second.
What were you playing?
Well, we're going to get there in a sec, but to jump out of this, I think I'm pretty sure a bunch of people know which person in the White House had my flight info. It's, I think, more than fair to say that guy's like, say, top 100 people, right, in the White House. I'm not trying to reference who specifically that was, right? I'm going to talk about some of these Coghouse stuff, right? And I just said Scott's name, and I think that's fine, right? Maybe he's grumpy with me, but whatever. I asked him for a coffee 17 times. He didn't do it, so, going to say his name. But I'm also going to reference, for example, a bunch of the times I played there, one of the top people from OpenAI was there. I'm not going to say who, but you could assume at least top 100, probably top few dozen kind of thing. There was at least once, I think only once, one of the top guys from Founders Fund was there, right? And, I remember some specific times I was playing there, and there was one time, I'm pretty sure it was way before DeepSeek, and I was kind of saying, usually the West loses all their secrets. Like, you guys should be more careful, right? And it was to a guy I'm, at least then, was a bit buddies with that OpenAI. And, we were playing, I think it was usually like 5-10 or 10-20. I don't know if we ever played 25-50. But it gets interesting when you start talking incomplete info kind of stuff. Like Scott, if you picked 100 random subjects, he's probably smarter than me on at least 90, and it might be 97, 98. But like when it comes to poker, there's probably some stuff you're smarter than him on. There's definitely some stuff I am, right? Like
I have that feeling often about lots of subjects. I feel that I'm in the 97%, the lower end, not higher end.
Yeah, I've had that all the time where I'm in the room with people that I'm like, wow, you know a lot of shit I don't.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you're smarter than me. Whoa, you know. But yet, often it's not absolute, right? And, you know, just recently, there was a lot of stuff that came out about like the Department of War, right? They renamed it. So Department of War and Anthropic. And, I don't really have much specific knowledge on that stuff. One little vague tidbit or two here or there, but to me, it seems like both of them spazzed some. I don't really know who spazzed more, right? Part of why I'm sharing a little extra on this video, part of why I wrote a tweet a few days ago was some combination of events. And one of those tweets said, I worry that the US intelligence community is maybe protecting certain AI companies a little more than others, right? And I really hope that's like 98% not true. I really hope any little detail I have to think, a certain picture might be there is I'm reading into it too much. It's not whatever, but yeah. Anyway, let's talk poker. Hit me with a poker question.
Right.
I'm gonna have a beer because I just talked about something sensitive. So.
Okay. All right. Okay. There were 3 hands that I jotted down that I want to ask you about. Okay. One of them, the action. I'll start with the one where the action doesn't really matter, and it's more. I want to ask you about what was said after the hand or during the hand. You'll know the hand immediately. It was against Barry, and the details don't matter.
Is it when we got all in?
Yes.
How do you know that
immediately? That's where I was going.
Because so many people ask me this. I think I just did the math wrong like an idiot and thought I was like, 52%, 51%, wasn't sure. But then when Greenstein...
Well, hold on. Let me just explain it, because if you haven't seen the hand, again, action doesn't matter. Tom has king, queen suited. Barry has aces.
Like a queen high flop with 2 spades, if I remember.
Right, flop is queen, I think it's queen 4-2 with 2 spades. Tom has top pair and a flush draw. They get it all in, and there was... Immediately, there's a conversation where it starts to be about how many times do you want to run it, and then Barry says, I don't want to run it multiple times, but we can take money back. And then Tom immediately says, like, absolutely not. I'm not doing that, but we can run it like 3, 4, 5 times or something like that. And then Barry says no, run it once, and then Tom ends up winning the hand. But
I basically always wanted to run stuff as many times as anyone wanted, right?
Okay.
Like, I thought lower invariance was good. I also thought trying to make people uncomfortable. Like, I think that's part of why Ivy would run it once a lot of times back in the day.
Yeah.
I thought that actually, while it might have given you very slightly more edge at the table, I thought it had like off the table effects. That were negative. And so I have a question
about that specifically too, because I've talked to some, I won't say who, but some of my Scandi friends that say their decision to run it once or run it twice or 3 times or whatever. And don't get me wrong, this isn't going to be about, the dummies thinking that the equity changes, but they say their decision changes based on who the opponent is and like their position at the table.
So let me tell you how I think of it.
Okay. All right.
Usually, especially the first few years I was playing, if I was at a poker table, I was one of the best people at it, right? Like,
I think we can all agree to that.
I was often lucky to be at the table, especially if there's some fish, some business guys, whatever.
Right.
Now, if you're in that spot, why do you need, if you're making 1,000 an hour, why do you want to try to make 1,010? Just try to make 950 and keep everyone happy so you can keep making it. And then maybe you can get into the game where you could make 2,000 and now you make 1,900, et cetera, et cetera. Now, let alone when you start going and playing private games, right? Yeah. I would basically always let the fish choose. But now if 1 in 10, 1 in 10, 20 times I really ask, it becomes a little harder for someone to not do it twice or 3 times. And that's actually quite a bit harder to get cheated, right? It's not impossible, but it's a little bit of protection. People that are thinking of it so narrow, they're very tunnel visioned and they're focusing, it would be like if you went up to, a blackjack table and said, the count's good, I can bet 2 hands here, right? And, you bet a few $100 and made $50 equity and then the casino kicked you out. Right. As you do that, I was trying to tell you, this roulette table's broken. It goes on this number half the time. We can get 35 to 1, right? Yeah. Like that's, I'm exaggerating some, but that's the kind of framing of how I see it, of like, hey guys, you're missing, what's the phrase, missing the forest for the trees or whatever.
Yes, yes.
Tunnel vision on this thing. And, I think the reality is that's people's minds playing tricks on them, right? Because there are things that happen around risk to our minds, our nervous system, things like that. And so people want to feel like they're in control. So they come up with all this bullshit instead of just saying, oh man, I don't like that sometimes I get all in and I get unlucky and the fish chose 3 times and I won the first and not the next 2 and I was 2%. Or the fish chose once and I lost the 1 when I was 80% or whatever, Yeah. Like, if you know that everyone's minds are playing the same kind of tricks on them and you're a poker pro and you're playing some business guy where,
you need to be the one to overcome it.
Yeah, like you do the fucking therapy of being like, oh man, let me make this guy happy. What do you want, sir? And then, right, like, for example, the better someone was, the more I would, be slightly less accommodating, right?
Yes, of course.
Or nicer someone was. And these were kind of ways I looked at things that would, even if someone was a quite good business guy, but they were pretty nice, right? I'd be like, all right, fine. For example, like when I was getting in the Macau games playing with Paul, like pretty quickly he got pretty good. Still, like, I didn't say, oh, I'm going to be slightly less nice to you than whatever. There's times I get all in and he'd be like, oh, the fish guy has a piece of the insurance, buy some extra insurance. And I'd just be like, fine. These kind of things. Like, I think a lot of poker pros look at that stuff wrong, right? They were optimizing for the wrong things.
Yep.
I was optimizing perfect things, but I was trying to be, have a little better strategy around it.
So okay, let's go to a different hand. There was another one that I saw that came up recently where, and again, I think you'll know it. You have 3s. You raise Doyle 3 bets you 9-10 suited in position. Flop is 9-9x.
No idea.
You don't have any. Flop is 9-9 something, like 9-9-5.
Poker or what?
Yeah, it was. It was on one of those.
Okay.
And then Doyle goes bet, and you call.
Oh fuck.
With 3s. Yeah. And
Doyle got
I want to know. You don't remember it at all?
No, I mean send me it in next month.
Okay, fine.
I'm not going to try now. I'll tell you this. I'll tell you.
Tell me, and then my question was going to be like, what do you think generally about Doyle?
Wait, I got a good one. I'm going to tell you what I think was my last Doyle interaction. But Doyle and I never really had an issue, right? There might have been some stuff we didn't see perfectly eye to eye, but I think we were always amicable, right?
Yeah.
And the only poker book I ever read, I guess I've read Gus's recently, but when I was starting, it was Super System, right? And I'm pretty sure the last time I saw Doyle, it was, I think, shortly before he passed. He had played some TV poker thing. I think Ted Cruz was in it, the U.S. Senator from, he's now maybe going to be a Supreme Court Justice from Texas. And he was coming back, and I'm pretty sure it's Vegas summer, right? And I was like, I think I was grumpy or didn't feel good or something's going on, right? but I haven't seen Doyle in a few years, like maybe a year, 3 years, 2 years. I don't know exactly, right? Um, maybe I had for a moment, whatever. And he's coming back, and he had his chair, and so he's going to Aria from the high stakes poker, or sorry,
Yep.
This was a different show, but the
right. I know what you're talking about.
And it was like one of the hottest Vegas days I've ever seen, right? And so I say hi to him. We like chat for 30 seconds, a minute, and I'm like kind of like happy to go. Not that I'm not happy to talk to Doyle more, but I'm like, yo, it's like 110 degrees out. He's like pretty old, right? And Doyle just wants to keep telling me about Phil Hellmuth bad beating him, right? And Phil Hellmuth had like bad beating him for him, and it was literally like
so funny,
right? And he goes on for like 5 or 10 minutes, and I was happy to be talking to Doyle. I didn't mind, right? But at some point, I'm like, Doyle, I can walk in with you there. You want to go in the AC? He's like, so Hellmuth, I can't believe he does this, he does that. And we're just sitting there for like 10 minutes. And I'm like, kind of thinking, is Doyle going to be all right?
It's possible that you caused this.
No, that was
his demise.
It wasn't like the next day. I don't know if it was months later or weeks later or whatever. But you can't blame me. Hellmuth won that bad beat.
Fine. Or Hellmuth got his blood pressure up so much.
That, no, it was like months later or something. And he was, I mean, I might have seen him for a second after that, but that was our last like long.
Even Doyle has bad beat stories, I guess.
Well, it was just fun. Doyle's played so many sky highs.
I know.
But I think, had someone else bad beat him, he probably wouldn't have cared much. It's just when it was Hellmuth, like had to vent it out,
All right, one more hand. So it's against Rui Cao, and I think you obviously know what I'm going to say. I'll just recap it really quickly. Tom opens, so they're playing 7-2, and it's 10K per man. For anybody, a bounty if you win a hand with 7 deuce. Tom opens 7-2. Rui 3-bets 8-7 off in position. Tom calls. Flop is ace queen 5 rainbow. Tom checks. Rui bets. Tom raises big. Rui calls. Turn is another ace. Tom bets big. Rui calls. River's a king. Tom checks. Rui shoves. Tom folds.
Okay.
So you can tell us about the hand.
I'm going to give you some.
But I want to ask you.
One minute. Let me give you some framing and then ask me after. Remember.
Okay. All right.
So Rui and I know each other like 10 years or something. We're a bit friends, but also competed a lot. I think of almost anyone in the world, he's one of the people I've tagged the most with a dialed in read, and also that has tagged me the most with a dialed in read. Right. But like we're proper a bit friendly. We didn't always see everything 100% eye to eye, but I think we mostly trusted each other. One time I trusted Rui, we were in Niseko, and he was like, oh, just come, I'm a average skier, a decent skier, just like you. He's French, brought me on the black diamond.
The triple black diamond.
Moguls and whatever, and, when he said decent, they call it off gate in Niseko. In US, I think they call it off path or whatever, I maybe have done that like once in my life for 20 feet, right? I'm not a.
He's like skiing backwards down the hill, talking to you.
He's amazing, right? Yeah. And we were like meeting one of our buddies that's like worth many billions, and I think him and Elton, who are both like really good skiers. I don't know if we were meeting Elton at that time or if he was joining later or whatever, but it was basically this crew of great skiers. And Rui was like, don't worry, I'm not as good as them. Like, just come with me. Brought me like this impossible thing. I'm like, whatever, it was fine, But, I'm guessing, like, we definitely had beers a few times. I'm guessing we had dinner, like, probably in a group mostly a few times. Like, we're a bit amicable. I never really had doubts about his integrity. I have a relation to Triton. I won't say exact specifics here, but like of everywhere in the world to play, I trust Triton the most. I know Andy well. I know everyone, and that hadn't happened. And I was like, did this fucker cheat me? Right? Like, I don't think I've ever really had that thought of Rui before. I mean, maybe for one moment. I don't know if I ever was over 2%. This is a spot where it's like impossible. And I'm like, yo, is it 5%? Is it 3%? Like, what? Like he owned my soul that hand, right?
Yeah.
And so I was just like, what's going on? But in the week after, he actually like lost back
Yeah, I
that
bet.
and more to me.
Yeah.
It happened. He had been like winning a ton, and he was in like try to own everyone's soul mode, you
Yeah.
know, and he obviously got it right sometimes, and like
Yeah, because
someone smart
sometimes,
like that does that to you a few
sometimes
times. They're
that,
like, let me show him a set. Let me show him a set. Let me show
right,
him.
right. So
You know?
sometimes that when he goes like this on the river, it's met with immediate call, and then all the, the chips come, you know?
Yeah. But yeah, that hand he was super dialed in. Like he just had it.
Okay,
Exact.
so it's,
I still think it's crazy because I could have shoved the river. So like,
I
why
know.
did the turn if he was right?
So
Like,
here's my question. This is what I want to ask you. Uh, he says, or you say before you see his hand, somebody said, "Oh, you got to shove the river," and he goes, "He's gonna snap call me," and then that's when he turns over his hand and he goes, "I was calling the river."
oh no, he's obviously not calling. That's
I don't know, man. If he put,
come on. I mean, I'm not saying it's not 1%, but like, come on.
That's my question. If he clearly has to think like, you know, seven deuce is a real possibility.
Yeah, but he's still not
like
calling.
your range narrows quite a bit in that situation. There's a lot of money in the pot. And
Wait,
like
but
7-2.
put it this way, if he was going to call, I think there was a flush draw. He would at least shove the turn if he was going to call the river because I could have 7 deuce. I could have a, you know,
right.
Like the one thing about me is, especially these kind of high stakes live games or TV games, I rarely am more than like 98, 99% trying to be GTO, let alone that I don't perfectly study or know these things.
Right.
Probably almost never, even by now, not anywhere the amount I should have. So I would sometimes just spaz bluff with like a jack high. Like he's just not, I don't think he's.
Yeah.
You know, yeah. But that hand's fucking tilted.
Okay. All right. Question from Matt. Do you think that poker's academic landscape is shifting with public online forums being less of a thing? There was something about the zeitgeist of old school 2+2.
Hey, circle back. Remember that, and I'll try to answer it in a few minutes. Let me hit you with some other stories.
Okay.
I want to tell 2 stories. One, and I think this should kind of count to our poker. It's about Al DeCarolis.
Who?
Al DeCarolis, Big Al.
Okay.
So he's played like a few of the tournaments. Me and him are like casual buddies. Sometimes he was in like the really big games in
LA, right?
Well, more the West. I'm not going to say specifics, but more the West. But like one time I went to a city to meet someone he knew a long time. I think we were having lunch or something. And Al showed up and saw me and looked like he was going to throw something at me because he was kind of like, is this pro trying to get in our spot? But I was actually like me and my buddy mostly, you know, not trying to be weird. But Al and I were like a little bit buddies, right? And I don't remember exactly when, probably like 2018 or some shit. He, Bobby Baldwin, some other people came to Hong Kong and Macau. And, you know, there was a few times they came, but at least one of these times I remember. And I thought of this earlier. I was like, oh, when I'm telling my parked car story, I'm going to tell this. So there was some night, there was like, I don't know, 100-person dinner or something crazy. And somehow from there, I think it was like people left at various times, but a bunch of the people were ending up at Dragon Eye, which is this club in Hong Kong, right? I don't know if this 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever. And Al and I were drunk. And, you know, I don't know, I probably had 10 drinks because I'm like trying to host everyone, cheers and everyone. A bunch of the Chinese guys can't speak English, you know. And so they would just say Ganbei, which is like cheers.
Yeah.
But then sometimes Ganbei, you know, basically Ganbei means like finish your drink. And so like if one of the Chinese fish says Ganbei to me, I'm like, oh man, like, and if I don't finish, you know. And so we're with my friend and a bunch of her friends, and somehow it's like me and Al and them. I think maybe the groups get missed or there's not enough cars or something like that. And we're going like 5 minutes, 3 minutes, 7 minutes, you know, some very short distance.
Yeah.
Someone drives that hopefully was sober or maybe had 2 drinks or whatever, right? And we get there and somehow they're struggling to park. And then I think like a few different people tried to park. And I remember I had like my 10 drinks from 8 drinks or whatever. And I was like, fine, I'll try to park. Like, I wouldn't have driven, obviously, right? I actually, like, my whole life I've been pretty good about those kind of things. Like, I'm not saying I've been 100% perfect.
Yeah, no, I can vouch for that for sure.
Right, and you know that kind of
Yes.
stuff. Like, I was like, I always tried to be like responsibly DJ.
Yes, I agree.
But for example, in this spot, I don't know, maybe it's illegal, but I was like, fuck, I'll try to park the fucking car, right? And I was able to get the car parked, and then, you know, we went about our night, like went to this Dragon Eye, whatever. But you know, when I decided I was going to share the struggling to park the car since London shit tidbit, I figured I'd share this one. So yeah. Anyway, what was the question? Let's go.
Okay. Basically, the guy's asking, was there something specific about 2+2 where you just can't put the magic back in the bottle nowadays? I think 2+2 was like super unique. Hello?
I'm here. I'm thinking how much I want to get into the streets on this answer. You know, a lot of our current economy is very dependent on AI. And based on this idea that there's a right answer for everything, even incomplete information areas, things like that, right? Early 2+2 was like a bunch of poker people trying to figure shit out together.
Yeah.
I remember even pretty early on, there was a time people were like posting graphs to try to like get a ton of people on 2+2, whatever, and people would post like, I won 50 buy-ins this month, I won 100 this month. And there was a time I won 300 buy-ins in 3 weeks at $2, $4. And I was like, I'm not fucking posting this shit. Like, this is twice as good as the best one anyone's posted the last 3 months. I'm not fucking telling anyone. I don't know what it means, but I'm pretty sure I shouldn't tell no one, you know?
Yeah.
And, like, you know, I think people didn't realize there was a cost to sharing stuff, you know, or information or whatever. And like now that's proving out, right? There's company, like I don't have any piece of any of these AI companies. A bunch of them are worth hundreds of billions, right? Like some are probably going to be worth trillions. Like, don't you wish you had a little sweat, right? Like, I think, you know, we were all spazzing, focusing on the wrong stuff, right? Like, there was this poker tournament the other day. This guy, Jonas Wood, he's like a pretty famous artist. He has a once-a-year tournament. And this guy, Dean, was there. They call him Dean. He's actually the guy that discovered Eminem, apparently. And he's been around, he's been around some spots where he could have made, you know, hundreds of millions probably, or at least tens, like very easily. And I think he's done well lately, but like, you know, if he had his own plane, he'd give me a seat, right? He's my buddy. Like, and we're at this table, and this guy that I'll just text, sorry, whatever. I'll text you who in a second, but this guy that like people would know that I hadn't seen in years and stuff, and I only know very casually, whatever. He hits Dean with the, man, you really wasted your life. Like, this guy's like,
that's not a nice thing to say.
But he meant it like he didn't mean it bad. You know, he was kind of saying, and I don't think it's like fully wrong. I think even you or I, like the times we spent in poker, like it might have helped us in some ways, it might have whatever. But like, imagine if we had went and, you know, spent that time in some other business or whatever. Like,
well, I think that's always the case with most people. I mean,
I want to text you who this guy was, but I'm not going to say it. But one sec.
Okay. Guys, any questions for Tom? Put them in the chat. I'll do my best. Some of these questions he answered in the previous YouTube or the previous interview. So I would, if you didn't already watch that one, I would recommend you check out part 1 of our little series that we're doing. He went into detail about the Peter Eastgate hand. Oh, okay. I got the text from Tom.
What the fuck is this autocorrect?
I almost read it out loud. I know. I was like, oh. That would have defeated the entire purpose of this charade.
But yeah, so that's a pretty interesting person, right? Like,
yeah.
That to say that, but like I think that guy was actually right. You know, and him and Dean are real friends, right? I don't think he meant it bad.
Yeah.
But basically, I think those early 2+2 days of people sharing a ton, unless they were a business guy who messed with poker a little bit,
yeah,
it was like a lot of people overshared, right? And there were times that could help, you know, a person personally or help their brain or whatever, you know, but like,
yeah,
you know, that kind of stuff has costs. When you do something better, if you always tell everyone how you do something better, like look at professional sports, look at esports.
I was just going to use that as an example.
Yeah, and I don't really agree with the word of esports, but whatever. Look at video games that are played very competitively. Like, it's just not, you know, it's not usually a good idea when you got, oh shit, what's going on? You there? Hello? Yeah, Mikey.
Yes, please continue.
What's going on? What was your question?
All right. You have $50 and to deposit. Could you do it all over again, or would you try something else? Nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, it's the like GTO Wizard, these other tools. Like,
I'm glad that you say that. Yeah,
ruined everything. You know, I'm not saying I could give me $50 in a few years. Maybe I'd run it up to like 50K. I don't know, but like, you know, even getting it to $1 million would be hard. Like,
yeah,
it's just
different is the best way to describe it.
I was right place, right time. Also had some luck, you know. Yeah.
When you were first moving up, did you do any mental game work and to be ready for the super large swings? You've always seemed fearless, so I wonder.
I mean, I was afraid to have a video chat with a goat farmer, so I'm definitely not fearless, you know.
Yeah.
You know, I would say that there's a lot of stuff I do to try to do mental work type stuff.
Did you ever do anything like professionally?
Yeah, after some stuff I went through, I talked to a therapist for many years. That was mostly related to personal stuff, but I did end up talking to them some about like other, you know, and I also would try to like listen to people that had bits of expertise. You know,
do you feel that helped you at the poker table?
Yeah, but especially off the table.
Yeah,
like it helped at the table, yes, but I think it helped off the table a ton. You know, we all have our own issues and vulnerabilities, and like once you kind of tell yourself the truth about them a bit, usually they don't go away, but maybe you can, you know, maybe they get 60% better or maybe 80 or whatever, but more important than that, you can kind of see the landmines coming a bit of the time and be like, oh shit, you know. And so imagine me and you are in some spot, right? Let's say it's around poker. Yeah, generally we might have me make a bit more of the decisions. But now, let's say I knew that well and somehow we're deciding together. If some shit comes up that really upsets me, might be like, all right, Mikey, you know better. Like, handle this for a minute, you know. There's a friend of mine that I think is very smart, that is quite famous, and I actually was at their house the night before that flight because I wanted them to meet my girlfriend, who's the love of my life, you know. And there were some times I was kind of helping teach him poker, right? And there were occasional times where some stuff got weird and actually their decisions were better than mine. And this is like a pretty famous person that didn't know poker that well, right? Like, but just let's say 3 fish walked in and I'm saying hi, you know, like that. Basically, if you're somewhat aware of your own stuff like that, then sometimes you could be like, wait a second, let me take a step back, you know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm following you.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that a ton more, but anyway, what else you got?
Okay. This guy asked.
Let me get
this question. This question's kind of boring without the context, but I'm giving you the context. In a different live that Galfond did, he asked Phil the opposite of this question. So okay. I'm asking you the flip side. He says, I asked Phil the opposite question, and I'm curious what Tom thinks. How different do you think your life would be if you had run like Galfond on high stakes poker instead of absolutely destroying everyone? So Phil ran really bad on high stakes poker, if you don't remember.
Well, but he also, I think, like, I got to play earlier than he did.
Yes.
And, for reference, like, for a few years, Phil and I were, pretty close friends, and also two of the better people at both Hold'em and PLO.
Yep.
For a number of reasons, lots of them being luck, it happened that I got in those high stakes poker shows and stuff like that earlier than Phil did. And, in some respects, I think I a little bit ruined it for him, because by the time he played, they were like, oh, these online kids aren't completely stupid,
yeah.
Ready. And I think when I was playing some of those, it was still when that, but like, of me and Phil Galfond and Z and Hack, I was like playing those live games a lot more than they were.
Definitely.
And, the skill difference between any of us online was not very much for a few years, right? Like, we were friends, we all talked a lot.
Right.
I think we're quite honest with each other and stuff.
Well, even if there was a big gap in the skill between you guys were so far and away above the skill of the people at the bottom of those games that it didn't really matter. Like, let's say you are 100% and Galfond is 97%, or vice versa.
No one's 100%, but yes.
It didn't really matter because the people you were playing against were 15%.
Right. Like, we were a step above a number of people around them, right? There were times like Ivy was still very good. There were other people.
Yes, I'm not including him in the bottom.
The four of us had a pretty long run where at least one or two of us, often all four were like pretty good at a bunch of games. And it happened, I got in those live games earlier than they did. And so by the time they went and played, it was kind of like, I was the guy when all the live guys were like, that online doesn't mean shit. This is real poker. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, I played a few million hands. Like, I don't know, guys. And, so I think also I ran ridiculously good on high stakes poker, but I think my edge there was a lot more than Phil's. And that's not because I was a lot better than him. We were basically the same, right? Relative to those people. It's because I got in while they all thought we were clueless. And by the time Phil got in, it was 2, 3, 4 years later. A lot of these live pros are not dumb guys, right? They have maybe played a few less hands. They maybe undervalued those tools we had or the things we learned.
Right.
By the time Phil got in, they were like, these fucking math kids know a little bit of fucking math, whatever, you know? And so his edge was a bunch smaller. Plus they had learned a bunch of stuff about the online guys, because that, like, dam had kind of broken already, where the online guys were, let me go play live, right? And so now you occasionally had someone like a Doyle or a Greenstein or whatever, that even if they played all day, every day for a week, you would have bet on Galfond, even if it was one of his first times playing live. They maybe had a few of their, the online kids often do this thing, often do that thing, right? Like, so.
Yeah, no, that's a great answer. I like that.
But I think, it had a ton of impacts on both our lives, probably. And it's like, sometimes those kind of little things happen that end up making a big difference way later, but you don't exactly know it at the time. You know what I mean?
Some people have asked, and I'll probably, also we have some questions that were submitted previously, but also in the chat. Do you see yourself playing on high stakes poker in the future?
Yeah, I plan to play some shows. I almost played one in November last year, but I plan to play some in the next few months on TV. Hopefully, I'll give some clearer updates soon, but I'm hoping next month or two. I think to be clear, like I think I've mostly healed from whatever fuck that was. Still, the park in the car is a little different. The few times I played poker,
I think you'll be fine if that's.
well, the 3 times I played poker, yeah, it doesn't feel like a huge difference. But actually, like being on camera feels a little. I'm a little more nervous, you know.
Okay.
And, you know, you and I actually, you can speak to this, right? I like we talked a lot. There was a bunch of steps. The first video, not as much, but before this one, there were a bunch of steps I tried to take to prepare, be careful, these kind of things, because like, you know, I basically anything I ever know, I noticed a ton of fucking shit over the years. I always like tried to just stay away, not make it my business. If I had to do a little something, I tried to make it small, stay away, and I was able to succeed, right? I fucking met all kinds of people from all over the world. A bunch of them unsafe. That's the word I was thinking of earlier. A bunch of them unsavory. Maybe some quasi gangster, maybe some actual gangster, some actual triad, other shit, whatever, you know. But I just would try to stay away, and I might have defined that looser than a lot of people would have in certain areas. But I really try to live that, and I, you know, basically succeeded, right? And you know, sometime around that flight last year, and then especially on the flight, some people felt they could make my choices for me. I didn't like that. And I tried to be very careful to heal. You know, my priorities are basically number 1, heal, number 2, be safe, number 3, find out what happened, in that order. But, you know, I'm willing to take, like, every now and then I push.
I think those things have blended over time.
Yeah, I'm willing to slightly blend and stuff, right? And but, you know, healing was my number 1. But like, does me having this chat with you slightly take some small safety risk? You know, maybe it shouldn't under our laws. If the separation of powers and shit still matter perfectly, it shouldn't. But I don't know if they ever mattered perfectly, and at least lately it seems that got a little blurred. But you know, it kind of helps my healing doing a little stuff like this, because I don't really like that some people felt they could make my choices for me.
Sure.
I'm not necessarily going to be doing tons of follow. I'm not trying, you know, I'm trying to be like, we're not planning to do streams a few months before the election. I'm trying to really be careful here and be like, guys, please don't do that again.
All right. Well, I feel like this was a, okay, go ahead.
But this is a little bit of consequence of that, right? And anyone who doesn't like something I shared here or whatever, I'm sorry, my bad, you know, but also, whoever the fuck made my choices for me, like, this is a little bit my heel, right? I don't think that was their right. And yeah, so anyway, right. Sorry, I set the original question. We're gonna on a little tangent there.
I suspect that this was like the first one that you, or the first chat. I think in the previous installment, I don't think we really touched on any of this stuff, but I know that you know, that was the intention, is to be more forthcoming about what happened to you in this situation.
There's a news story coming out shortly that touches very slightly, probably less than I just did, but not zero, on some of my stuff. A lot of poker, whatever. Yeah. But actually, I talked to that reporter, you know, a few times, and it's a guy I know many, many years, and I talked to him a few times without phones, right? And I think he'll honor the handshake. But I also think, you know, if someone was breaking my pinky, I don't know if he'd spaz. I don't even know if I'd want him to. Right? If they were chopping off the arm, he might go for it. And if I got hit by a bus, I'm pretty sure there'd be some front page news, you know, like, and I've taken a bunch of other steps like that. Things that I'm really trying to not have get out, right? Like even the guy in the White House, these kind of things, even people I'm slightly grumpy with, you know. But unfortunately, I've started needing to try to think through the strategy on this shit. And
I think it's difficult when you know, there's a lot of vagary.
Sure, but one thing I can tell you is, if, you know, Galfond baited Grok into saying it would play him heads up a few months ago. If they had played the next day, Galfond would have been a huge favorite, right? Yes, GTO Wizard, super good. They're just coming out with some shit the next few weeks. Hope they aren't mad at me for saying this. They're going to put out their AI for people to play and other AIs to play and stuff. And probably that would smoke me or Galfond, you know, probably by a ton, right? But obviously Grok is more powerful than GTO Wizard, right? OpenAI or Anthropic probably more than Grok, even still, Google, etc. But my guess is if they're not optimized for poker, any of those likely lose tomorrow. Now you give them a month or whatever, they might smoke it, But,
I mean, even ChatGPT, if you provided chess stuff, it'll tell you like moves that are, like sack the queen, and it's like
right. And so, realistically, like I'm not sure this Iran stuff Trump just did plays out well, but props to them. I don't think Khamenei was a good person, and seems like they got him and a bunch of the top IRGC people, right?
I think we're too far off schedule.
All right, fine.
We have more of these scheduled, so let's go into it.
But then you got to say one thing, because the deal was then you say you did see some.
Yes, yeah, and basically you and I have chatted off of this call quite a few times, a handful of times, and
That's someone for me.
Yes, I did, and I'm keenly aware that everything that you've saying has been very truthful.
No, probably not, but I'm at least trying, right? I'm probably got some
right.
I'm trying.
I even told you this, that I believe that you believe what you're saying. So
right, and I showed you some evidence.
Yeah.
Or you shown by someone else some evidence of the what,
Yeah, and so I think people that know you.
Let's go back to poker. All right. Give me.
All right. All right. Well, we're gonna close it out here. Well, actually, I wanted to ask you because we're doing our next monthly elite call this Friday with Gus, and so I want to know what you think I should ask Gus.
Oh man, let me give you.
I have a bunch of questions already.
All right, but let me secret give you ambush. I like Gus.
Okay.
Give you. I don't have it off the top of my head, so let me think, and I'll text you later.
Okay. All right. I think it's going to be super interesting. So
you should ask Gus one thing. I'll say public. If he knew that we used to have a text thing when he sat me and Z and Hack. No, because I'm pretty sure he did. Because I don't think it was me. I think it was either Z or Hack. But he was like sitting next to one of them, and they were a little friendly. Like Gus is a nice guy, and the alert went off, and Gus was like, because he like sat as he's.
You know that I made that.
I did not.
Yeah. Yeah, I worked with the programmer.
You got to ask him about it, and if he knew, and be like, "I'm the one that made it," and whatever. That'd be so funny.
And I think I charged like $15 a month or something like that.
I thought we paid a lot. I thought we paid like $500 a month.
No, it wasn't that much. I worked with the programmer to make it.
No, you made the programmer, and then you made it more mainstream later.
Well, because the programmer didn't know any poker players, so for those of you that don't know what we're talking about, there was back in the full tilt days, it was very important before seeding scripts and all of that nonsense, you wanted to know when certain people signed on to full tilt. And you could program.
You couldn't know when they signed on, but you could know when they sat.
When they sat at a table. And so when they would sit at a table, you would get a text message to your phone, and you could set priority levels from 0 to 10. So
I don't remember that.
Yeah, some people were 10, and then some people would be like a 3, and then another person would be a 3, and if a game ever got over a threshold of like a 7, then you would get a text. So you weren't just getting a text, everybody. So like maybe Benjamin would be like a 4, and then, Gus is probably not a 10, but whatever. You get my point.
I remember he might hate me for saying this, but a bit of the times Guy was playing the Circus LA owner.
Yeah.
He would send him full tilt money and settle it later. And some of the times I would be short on it, so I would borrow some from Galfond or Z or Hack or whatever. And there was some time he got mad at me, and he's like, "Why is it whenever I sit, one of these guys is sitting?" And they were like, I was like, "Look, they're my friends, but if I'm asking them for money, I need to explain why. I can't be like,
Yeah.
Fine. And then probably I got up or they got up to be like, okay, sorry."
Yeah, I'm going to ask him. One of the things that I thought was the most impressive about Gus is and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that he was probably top 10 top 20, whatever you want to call it. Doesn't really matter the number that you pick in the world at a given game. Doesn't really matter what it is. Let's just call horse or 08 or limit hold'em or PLO or NL. And let's say he was top 15 at 08. He just would play the people that were 7, 6, 5, and 4.
No, I mean, that's not what he would do. He would just, if he was 15, number 7 might sit out heads up first up. He would play number 1 and 2.
That's what I mean. And it's like, what? Why, man? Why?
And he would learn so fast. Right, he was so smart. Like he might be way smarter than me or Galfond or Hack, but he was doing this to like the best people at 30 different games at once, and it was
that's the thing that blows my mind is him playing like stud 8 and stud high on 2 separate tables, and my head would explode.
But that's part of why his records weren't that great. Yeah, right? He was just taking on this battle that even Gus
that God would have a hard time.
I don't know about that, but yeah. Anyway,
but like when you have 4 tables of horse and you have limit hold'em, 08, stud 8, and stud, you're like, okay, fuck, okay, and I distinctly can see it in my mind, the heads-up tables of him playing Kagome and I Hate Juice at Limit Hold'em.
I don't even remember those names, but okay.
You remember those people. Kagome? He was like a limit player. I think it was I Hate Juice.
So what would happen a lot is that, I might have known these guys by a different name.
Different name on like stars or something like that.
And so I associated like, oh, this is ABC. Yeah. You know them as whatever their full title.
Yeah, like Galfond is OMG, but original Galfond was Mr. Sweets, Right.
Well, and like then there was like Trex and You're in Danger was what I thought of as
right.
Them as themselves or as though
right. All right, Tom. I really enjoyed it today. I really appreciate you coming on and chatting with everybody and sharing your stories. And I look forward to the next time that we get to do this.
Thanks, man. Yeah, and next time let's shill some goat farm products.
Hey, you got it, brother.
See you.
Bye-bye.